Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for more stories. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. I was waiting to meet my girlfriend for dinner at a downtown bar when I ran into an old acquaintance, Robert Barron. Years ago, I almost went to work for him at Barron Pratt & Partners. But back then, I was young and easily swayed by appearances. So, I ended up joining another agency. Looking back, I like to think I would make a wiser choice now. We greeted each other and he joined me at my tiny table. "Long time, Ethan," he said as we shook hands. Seeing him made me genuinely happy. Robert had always been a decent guy and would have been a great boss if I had worked for him. Maybe I would still be comfortably employed there without all the drama that came later. Instead, I had chosen a less than stellar firm, which eventually pushed me to start a small agency with my former best friend and business partner, Tyler Hughes, a partnership that ended in betrayal and loss. By the way, I am Ethan Mitchell, former co-owner of that small ad agency. After a few minutes of catching up, Robert asked, "So, Ethan, I haven't been following the industry lately. I had a heart issue a few years back, so I've stepped away. Martin Pratt runs the firm now, and I'm semi-retired." "Oh," I said. "So, what brings you here? Business or pleasure?" Robert chuckled, holding up his glass of orange juice. "Still the joker, Ethan. That's good. Humor helps in tough times." I raised my glass in agreement. "Semi-pure, I guess," he said. "I was visiting my grandkids. Now I'm killing time between flights. I've got a 10-hour layover before heading to my semi-retirement spot. Figured downtown was better than sitting in an airport bar. Plus, you don't run into old friends at the airport like you do here. Mind if I hang around for a while, Ethan?" "Not at all, Robert. It's a pleasure." I'm just waiting for before I could finish, my phone buzzed. "Ethan, here." "Hi, honey. You have to what?" "Damn. No, I just wish you'd tell that lousy boss of yours to get you more help," I said with a laugh. "So, dinner? How long will it take?" 3 hours max." "That's not too bad. Tell your slave driver boss I'll have words with him next time I see him." "You do that?" "Okay. Not sure how late Caruso's Grill stays open, but we'll figure something out. Call me when you're close to finishing up or if you want to swing by. I'll be at the downtown tavern catching up with an old friend. You might have to pour me into a cab later, but I'll wait for dinner. Love you, too. Looking forward to it. See you soon." I hung up and turned to Robert. "Looks like I've got time to catch up." "Great. Call me Rob now, Ethan." He sipped his drink and gave me a thoughtful look. "Last I heard, you and Tyler were tearing up the town. What happened?" "It's a long story, Rob. Kind of a heavy one. Like I said, I've got time. I love a good story. Mitchell and Hughes, we were equal partners. Tyler and I, our strengths complemented each other and diminished our weaknesses. I was the idea man and the writer. I was also the pitchman who sold the ad campaigns. I wrote the scenarios, scripts, and copy, but Tyler was the one who brought them to life. He wasn't much in the way of big picture imagination, but he caught on to my ideas better than almost anyone I have ever worked with. Once we were on the same page, his eye for graphics and insistence on getting everything just right on the page or the screen meshed very well with my perfectionist cipher words. I might not know exactly what I wanted to see, but when Tyler put it together, I knew it was right. We worked together for 8 years. The first 4 in that crappy agency that will remain nameless, and then 4 years at Mitchell and Hughes Advertising. Mitchell and Hughes, that was us. It was our baby. We got to where we were doing all right and had a decent and growing reputation in the business. Sometimes we would even get discreetly called in by the big boys to critique their struggling projects. And they paid us well for our advice. We were doctors for sick campaigns. We met at that crappy agency. 2 junior staffers thrown together to try to rescue a very poorly conceived ad campaign. That place gave scant service to their smaller clients. Well, we salvaged something out of it and made a little money for our bosses. We also realized that we worked together really well. Tyler had gotten married to a very lovely lady named Claire just before he came aboard. I had married Rachel 2 years before that, back before I even knew Tyler. His wife Claire and my Rachel hit it off great when we first got together socially. They became about as close as Tyler and me, maybe closer. They were both great wives and sweethearts and much too good-looking for two ordinary plugs like me and Tyler. On that, Tyler and I agreed. Rachel was a slender honey blonde. Claire had jet black hair and they were both well put together. Foxy ladies indeed. In heels, Rachel came up to my level with me. Petite little Claire might make it up to my chin in very high stilettos. Tyler is a great big beefy guy, 6 feet 1 inch plus. He looks like a pro linebacker gone to seed, but he is much too gentle a man to do anything like play contact sports. Me, I'm about 5 feet 10 inches and weigh about 160 pounds. I actually did play a little college football. I was the little guy they put out there to run fly patterns and return kicks. I got the snot kicked out of me week in and week out, but I gave as good as I got. And the half scholarship I got helped me get through school. I was on my own after high school. Rachel and I and Tyler and Claire were practically inseparable. The gang of four we called ourselves. We liked each other's company in and out of work so much that we went in halves on a mountain lakefront property and built a nice cabin there. We co-owned a boat, too. A real sweet cabin cruiser. I've never seen one as big as ours up on any of the lakes up there. But hey, it was for 4 people, right? Right on the fateful day when everything turned. The 4 of us were going to enjoy an end of summer weekend together at our lake hideaway, but I hit a snag. We were supposed to make a big presentation of an ad campaign to Whitaker & Sons next Friday, but this Thursday night, old Harold Whitaker called and said he had to go to Asia next week. If we wanted to try to get the Whitaker account, we'd have to make our pitch Friday, the next day. He is kind of a prickly old cuss, and we really did not have a high percentage shot at the account, but it was worth the risk. But the schedule crunch sucked. We had the package fairly well laid out, but there were some finishing touches that we thought we would take care of and polish up during the first part of next week. So, we pulled an all-nighter and Tyler came through as usual with all the graphics. Friday morning, his part was done and we agreed that he and Claire would take Rachel up to the lake as planned. I would go to Whitaker and endure their glacial pace of meet and greet to give the pitch. If I were lucky, I would get done by 5 or 6 p.m. after a 3-hour drive up to the lake. I would be there in time for us to go out to the new buffet over at a nearby resort. Harold Whitaker, old Harold, liked to do things nice and slow. I would call it glacial. There would have to be a long morning tour of the plant to learn how we do things here at Whitaker. Then a leisurely lunch to get to know the cut of each other's jib. Then finally, a lengthy afternoon presentation of the firm's goals, followed by Harold's dissatisfaction with their current sales campaign. I knew pretty much what his gripes were. The campaign was from a big agency that would not put the time and effort into a small to middling account like Whitaker. Sounded familiar. After all that, I would be up front and center. It would probably be no sooner than 3 p.m. or so. I would make a detailed 90-minute pitch slides by Tyler to address their complaints as we envisioned them. Then there was sure to be a lengthy Q&A session to satisfy everyone that we knew what we were doing. That would be about 90 minutes or more. All this for a long shot at what would be our biggest billing client ever, but we thought it was worth trying. When I got there, it was Murphy's Law Day. The worst laid plans, etc., etc. The local area got hit with a substation power failure and everything was down. No power, no work, no AC, no nothing inside. We could not tour a darkened plant with no functioning air conditioning. There would be no leisurely lunch except from a local pizza place that delivered. There could be no slide presentation in a powerless conference room. So Harold led us out to a little campus picnic area. There was no power for slides and nothing to project them on, which cancelled out much of Tyler's great work. Still, I had hard color copies of the slides, enough for maybe half of the major attendees. I told them they would have to share. I had lemons thus far, so I decided to try for Longot lemonade. Instead of general conversation to kill time, I started grilling Harold and his people about what they wanted to project in their ads, which was a return to a more peaceful rural setting to show off the work they did and the very fine products they made. I think it was nostalgia. But hey, I thought that nostalgia would sell Whitaker products well. It was all of a piece with old Harold himself. He believed in what he did and he could be more folksy eloquent than any copywriter could make up. Then I told them flat out what was wrong with their current failing campaign. And I told them why. I told them the ad agency simply did not buy their self-image idea. The ads they created were slick, edgy, and borderline mockeries of Harold and his old-time virtues. It was a smarmy big city point of view with no sincerity in it. They took notice of that, I tell you. That's right. Harold jumped up and said, "That's exactly right. They're more interested in poking fun at us and our ways than in selling our doggone product for us. They think they're so doggone subtle." Mr. Mitchell, I think you nailed in 10 minutes what we've been trying to tell them for 4 whole doggone months. Harold eyed me for a moment. Then he went for it. "Ethan, how would you present Whitaker?" So, I told them. It was not exactly what was written on our presentation, but it was not far off. I had been thinking all along about the virtues of an old-time company. What they had just been telling me informed what I told them now. I told them our Whitaker ads would promote the ideals of honest work, good native materials, and hometown values, where a man's word was his bond, and you gave an honest day's work to the best of your ability. I was only telling them what they saw in themselves. Every ad would feature a different Whitaker employee going through a typical workday activity and would end with him or her looking the viewer in the eye and saying, "I go home every night knowing that I did my absolute best for the man or woman who buys what I make." There's not too many in this day and age can say that and mean it. I stand behind my work and Mr. Whitaker stands behind me. I won't let you down and he won't let me let you down. Then Harold would step in beside the employee and he would say, "You have our word on it." Cornball. Sure. Sincere? Absolutely. Jesus. They loved it. They crowded around me, pounding me on the back and jumping around like little kids at a playground. Harold told me he was sold. He told me to FedEx the contract for the full deal, all options included, to where he'd be staying in Japan next week. Harold was direct when he knew what he wanted. "I want you back here 5 weeks from Monday when I'll be back. I want you, Rarin, to go by 8 a.m. We'll give you a real tour and introduce you to the kinds of people at Whitaker you'll want in our ads." It was just 12:30 when they saw me off. Mission accomplished. Mitchell and Hughes had our first big account. It might be SOS for the agency that had bungled it, but it had enough revenues to keep us going and let us bring in some staff to take the burden off us. I was practically singing. I headed out on the long road up to the lake. I decided not to call ahead. I would just waltz in hours ahead of time with a huge success story for the 4 of us to celebrate. I hit a gas station for fuel and a pit stop and planned to be on the road again by 1 p.m. The restroom was so filthy that I did not try to change there. Instead, I pulled around back of the station by the dumpster and changed in the front seat of my Ford Focus. I wound up driving with my clothes strewn over the rear passenger seat and my swimsuit clad, but bouncing in anticipation of the celebration after I blew in. Damn, I thought I even might get in some serious sunning and swimming. As I drove up the cabin driveway, I could see that foxy little Claire was asleep, swaying in the hammock down by the dock. She wore a skimpy bikini and was a real hottie. Just looking at her like that could give me a partial stiffy. There was nobody in the cabin. The cabin cruiser was out on the lake 100 yards or so from the dock, gently rocking. I let Claire sleep on, although I did slow down to appreciate how little of her was covered by her string bikini. Now I had a full stiffy. I walked past her and dove into the chilly lake water. That soon took care of the stiffy. I reveled in the feel of the exercise as I swam out to the boat. I thought I'd surprise Tyler and Rachel, sunbathing or fishing. But as I neared the boat, I could not see either of them. They must be down below in the cabin, I thought. But that made no sense. It was too gorgeous a day to be inside. I came to the short transom ladder and put my weight on the lowest rung. As the boat heeled, I thought I heard Rachel's muffled voice. No words, just a sound. Then I was aboard and moving toward the hatch that led down into the cabin. I was tiptoeing. Why? Instinct. 2 steps down and I saw Tyler lying on the starboard bunk. Rachel was with him, seated on his lap, moving gently and steadily. Their movements were slow and relaxed, as if they were completely at ease with no rush or urgency. It was a calm and familiar moment between 2 people who had shared this connection many times before. As I stood there frozen, Rachel's eyes opened up, but she was unseeing, still oblivious to my presence. As she neared her climax, she tilted her head back in the way that I knew so well and let out that little squeal I also knew so well. She rolled her head from side to side, looking straight up in her ecstasy. After a few moments, she let her head come forward and her body slumped, and then her eyes looked back up and she saw me. She screamed, "Ethan!" I heard Tyler chuckle, "That hurts my feelings, babe." It's Tyler. I finally became capable of movement. It was a toss-up. Grab down the salvage axe and go in there swinging. Or just back away and try to think. Make a plan. As I backed away, I heard Rachel's panicked voice. No, Tyler. It's Ethan. He's standing there. He was standing right there. He saw us. Oh my God. Oh my God. I looked over at the dock at the hammock with Claire's sleeping form and further up the 2 vehicles, his Chevrolet Tahoe and my Ford Focus. That gave me a hint of a plan, although admittedly short-term. But a half plan is better than chaos, someone once said. Just as I stood on the transom, ready to dive, I heard Tyler's agitated voice. Geez, Rachel, are you sure? You idiot. You think I don't know what Ethan looks like? Of course, it was Ethan. As I dove, I heard, Ethan, Ethan, buddy, wait. The water was cool and silent. I swam back, consciously going for long, smooth, strong strokes. My mind completely concentrating on the movement. It left no room for coherent thought for a few moments. But this brief respite of peace wasn't going to last long. I was the best swimmer by far of the gang of 4. I'd be at the dock in no time. The gang of 4. Rachel screwing Tyler was going to shake the gang up a little. There was no escaping having to think about that and a million other bad things. I began to hear the boat's engines being cranked over and over. You always flood it when you're in a hurry. A-hole, I thought. I decided right then that A-hole was Tyler's new name. For Rachel, I was wavering between 304 and deceiving. I made it to shore and heaved myself out of the water and onto the dock. As I walked past the hammock, I heard Claire's cell phone start to do her goofy little ringtone from deep in her tote. As I neared the 2 vehicles, I heard her sleepy little girl's voice. What? I'm trying to sleep. Then what? No. God, wait a minute. I don't. Then Ethan. Ethan, wait a minute. Wait up. Ethan. Ethan, I have to talk to you. I looked back. Claire was scrambling around trying to find her sandals. She's not a barefoot kind of girl at all. The gravel hurts her delicate little toes. By then, I was leaning in my forward Focus, rummaging in my pants pockets. I came up with my key ring and pulled open the small penknife blade. The Tahoe beckoned. I sunk the blade into one rear tire and then into the spare that hung on the back. They deflated with fierce, then fading hisses. I heard the boat's engine getting louder as it neared the dock, but didn't bother looking back. I jumped in the Ford Focus, which always started like a champ, and I could see them now. They had 70 or 80 yards to cover running up from the dock. I saw they had managed to get their swimsuits on en route. All nice and decent-like for the benefit of any passers-by. Wouldn't want to scare away the tourists. I threw the Ford Focus in reverse and floored the pedal. I whipped the wheel around just like I was taught back in defensive driving school and executed a pretty decent bootlegger's turn. Once the ends swapped and I was pointing away from the lake and the cabin, I slipped the transmission into drive 1 and raced away down the driveway, spewing gravel behind me in a miniature rooster tail. Damn, I had always wanted to do that turn in a real-world setting. It was sweet. So, why did I feel so sick? I hit the paved road and drove too fast for several minutes, then cut back on the gas. It wasn't as if any of them back there would be chasing me for a while. Not with 2 out of 5 tires down. It took about 7 minutes before my cell phone went off. I have it set so that it will act like a home answering machine where you can hear the person leaving the message after the beep. Honey, Ethan, look. I know that was something that you didn't want to see, baby, but you just have to come back and let me explain. There is an explanation. Please, Ethan, please, baby, please call me back. I love you. She repeated that call and some variation of that message many, many times. I wondered if that I love you sounded as hollow to her as it sounded to me. Just before I did my jazzy bootlegger's turn, I'd noticed that the boat was drifting away. A-hole had been so excited he'd forgotten to tie it up. I figured his cell phone was on board, so I called his number and left them a group message, one that they could not interrupt by picking up. A-hole, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we won the account. They lost all power out there, so I couldn't do the presentation. We were just killing time, sitting out on some benches. So, I decided to just wing it. And old Whitaker and his people just ate it up. He wants us to send him the full contract next week. Now, for the bad news in several parts, the first piece of bad news is that I'm not going to do anything about Whitaker. You can do whatever you want, but I'm ending this partnership effective from the moment I saw what happened between you and my wife. I don't know you, and I don't want to see you again. You've been deceitful and manipulative. Want to know the lies? Anytime you call me your friend, the second piece of bad news is for Rachel. Are you listening, Rachel? I'm going to divorce you as soon as I can speak with a lawyer. I hope this doesn't come as a surprise, but I don't know you, and I don't want to see you again either. You've been deceitful and the lies you told me were hurtful. Want to know the lies? Every time you said you loved me. The third piece of bad news is for Claire. Since you've clearly been part of all of this, you're now added to the list of people I don't want to know or see again. No offense, but I hate being lied to by people I trust. Okay, that's it. You can continue with whatever you were planning to do. Good luck getting emergency road service up here on a Friday night. After I sent off that little bill of due, I disengaged my mind and just wallowed. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Rachel and Tyler. Rachel and A-hole. Rachel and A-hole. Screwing away like an old married couple. This must have been going on for years. How could I not have seen anything until now? I realized now that there had always been opportunity. The four of us went everywhere and did everything together in all kinds of combinations. I'd squired Claire to parties when both A-hole and Rachel were working on something or other, or maybe working on each other. That was the crux of it. I'd never dreamed of it. So, they could have been doing it forever. I'd have never known. It might have started as soon as they met. My wife screwing my partner, my supposed life partner, writing my supposed best friend, and Claire just snoozing away, but apparently not surprised. No, definitely not surprised. All she could say was that she had to talk to me. How the hell would that conversation have gone? I wondered. Oh, by the way, Ethan, in case you missed the memo, my Tyler and your Rachel screw each other every chance they get. Are you tired from your drive up? Let me get you a drink. I wondered what was in it for Claire. The repetitive ding of calls into my cell phone was getting on my nerves. I wanted to turn it off, but I briefly wondered how many calls per mile I was averaging. It might be a record. I might get something positive out of this mess after all, I thought. Then I had another thought. I'd have to share the record with whoever was calling me. Screw it. I'm not sharing anything with those people. I flipped the phone open and pushed the red button to turn it off. Okay, now what? My wife was screwing my best friend, who was also my business partner. Oh. This could get awkward at the office Christmas parties. No, I was making jokes out of this. I always joked at bad times. It was that or start crying. Right now, I knew that if I wasn't laughing, I'd be driving off a cliff or straight into a stone wall somewhere on the way home. Home. There's another laugh. To paraphrase Robert Frost, home is the place that when you go there, when it is an a-hole's turn to screw Rachel. Rachel and I had had a pretty active sex life, I thought. Or we had up until about a year and a half ago, but even turned down a notch. It had been pretty good. Guess if she's also been doing him along with me all along. She must need a pocket planner to keep her assignation straight. Or maybe Claire kept the calendar for her. Claire always was the organized one. Keeping the sex schedule for the gang of 4. Check that. Now the gang of 3. Home. No, I'm not going home. Not right now. Anyway, that'll be where they'll head when they get on the road. They're probably synchronizing their lies right now. I figure if the 3 of them work in 10-hour shifts around the clock in a couple of weeks, they might be able to convince me that I didn't see Rachel act the way she did while with Tyler. It's all about persuasion, you know. No, I wasn't going home. I'm not ready to listen to their lies right now. Instead, I headed for the office. Soon we will be at the offices of the soon-to-be while Mitchell and Hughes. A-hole Hughes will have it all to himself now. Maybe he'll leave the Mitchell on the door like Scrooge left Marley's name. Boo. You see these chains? A new link was forged whenever you screwed Rachel. Rattle rattle. Even I didn't think I was funny anymore. I cried. Really cried. Real salty tears. I think the word was sobbed. I had to pull over for a few minutes. I couldn't see to drive for the tears. I wiped my eyes and started up and eventually pulled into my parking space. I decided to be practical. I started with the nitty-gritty details. Save the big picture stuff for later, I thought. I made a checklist. I went online with my bank and set up new accounts for myself. I took half of everything in my joint accounts with Rachel and moved it to my new savings account. I liquidated all our joint CDs and split the money 50-50. It cost us some money in early termination penalties, but I really didn't give a damn. And Rachel wasn't there to protest. Screw her. Check. Our investment brokerage had 247 online customer service. The computer took my orders to sell our joint portfolio, but balked my request for expedited service. The weekend guy emailed me to call him to verify. So, I called the number he gave me and told him the basics of what I was doing. I also told him why. He invoked the 72-hour cooling-off clause and said he wanted to talk to Mrs. Mitchell about it. I told him to knock himself out, but by the contract, whether he talked to her or not, I had the right to do this without her permission. He said it would be done by close of business Wednesday. I said, fine. I thanked him. Check. I called Lawrence Porter, our family lawyer. He was at home on a Friday night. Get a life, Lawrence. I said I wanted him or a referral from him to file for divorce and to do whatever was necessary to dissolve our business partnership. He sounded startled and asked what had brought all this on. I told him after I was finished. He said he was very sorry to hear of it. He cautioned me about moving too fast on these things. He asked whether I would consider some marriage counseling. I said no, that the time for words ended around 3 this past afternoon. He told me to call him back Monday morning for an appointment and referrals. I thanked him. Check. I pulled up the real estate classifieds and found an apartment in the Clauseran suburbs. I wasn't sure where I'd be working after this weekend, but this was accessible to the major arteries. I called the number and talked to a nice lady. I was surprised they were open this late. She said they had a unit that I could rent for 6 months with option for renewal. The nice lady said that if I would promise to come in early the next morning, she would put a temporary hold on the apartment until noon. If I liked it, she said I could come over and sign the lease Monday evening after they ran a credit check. I thanked her. Check. Damn, I thought I was making progress. My life was falling down around my ears, but I was getting a lot of check marks made. It was a poor substitute for losing the love of my life and my quantum best friend. But it was something, I guess. I was at the end of my checklist, so I added another item. I hunted through my Rolodex and found a card for Gregory Hanley, the head of one of the good ad agencies in town. I had remembered right. He had scribbled his personal cell phone number on the back when we had chatted some months ago. He was a former shark, total shark, but now was reportedly mellowing into a pretty nice guy. He had people to be ruthless for him now, I suppose. I called him up. He sounded surprised that I was calling, but not displeased. We chit-chat for a few minutes. Then he said, "Ethan, I have no problem just shooting the breeze on a Friday evening with a friend, but why do I have the feeling this isn't a purely social call?" "That's because your instincts are still first-rate, Gregory." Okay, in a nutshell, I caught my wife Rachel screwing my partner Tyler this afternoon. For some reason, that displeased me. I'm going to get as far away as I can from both of them. I'm going to divorce her and bail out on the partnership with him. The time frame is ASAP. I can't ask you for a new wife, Gregory, but I do need a job. Wow, he said. You've had a huge Friday, Ethan. Let me think. I have a good organization. A little thin in the graphics area, but no holes that you'd be an obvious fit. Mostly junior stuff. I have good people in any of the slots that you'd be a natural for, but I'll never turn away real talent, nor a man who needs a little help. I could hear him whistle softly as he thought. I thought maybe he really has mellowed. Ethan, my head is spinning. I need to talk to some people. Tell you what, give me a few days. Say until Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. I will without fail get back to you with something, and it will be concrete. To tell the truth, when I used to bug you about coming in with me, I never dreamed you might actually agree. I thought you and Tyler were going places. Yeah, well, not going to happen now, I said. Gregory was thinking out loud. Damn, this could be really interesting. Any leads I can pick your brain for? No. Well, we won an account with old Harold Whitaker, or did win it. I don't know whether Tyler can handle it on his own. Gregory said, Whitaker, that rings a bell. Gregory, it was your account. You gave it to someone who's managed to piss Harold Whitaker off. He's going to dump your campaign, but I can't snipe that one back for you. First, because Harold's pretty pissed at you and your minions right now. Second, because, well, much as it pains me to say it, Tyler did a lot of the detail work. By rights, it belongs to the firm. And since I'm walking away from the firm, I've decided to leave it for him to try to make it work. I'd say there's a 50-50 chance he won't be able to do it with me gone. So, you may get another shot at it. Gregory laughed at me over the phone. I can't believe you, Ethan. Here, the guy has been screwing, brewing you over, and with your wife, no less. And you're still trying to be honorable and do the right thing. Didn't anybody ever teach you that there's no room for principles in advertising? Just because he's an a-hole doesn't mean I have to be one, I said. I still got to look myself in the mirror every day. Anyway, like I said, you may get that do-over shot, but only if we can work something out by Wednesday. And by the way, how could you get so careless about a good solid account, Gregory? That's not like you. Maybe if I poke around, I could find other accounts that are being neglected. Point well taken, Ethan. Point well taken. Geez, it sounds like you're almost making money for me already. For a principled fool. You do nice work without fail. I will get back to you Wednesday. Ethan, trust me, I'm not letting you get away. Damn, I got to have Sophie look into losing that Whitaker account. I can't believe we got so sloppy. Who's Sophie? I asked. Sophie's my daughter, Ethan. You met her a couple of years ago at the big New Year's bash we threw. Very petite, very pretty, very sharp. You hiring relatives now, Gregory? Nepotism doesn't replace talent? Screw you, Ethan. He laughed. Nepotism has nothing to do with it. Sophie's a lot like me. She has good instincts. Unlike me, she's got an MBA. Besides, she's my daughter, not my nepot. God help her if she looks like you, Gregory? Nope. She's got her mother's genes to work with there, and she did a nice job, although in a very small package. Anyway, you'll be meeting her after Wednesday. But let me warn you, Ethan, she's very sensitive about the nepotism thing. She hates to be patronized. Okay, forewarned is format or has forearms or something. Anyway, thanks, Gregory. Forget it. I'll work you so hard you'll be begging for help. I laughed and hung up. Check. Damn. If you didn't know how screwed up my life was, you'd think I was really cooking. Oh well, time to go home and listen to lies while I pack. I thought I told them on the voicemail that I didn't want to see them, but I had to go back to the house and pack, and I knew they'd come there trying to explain, so I'd have to endure them one more time at least. I added another item to the checklist. I'll have to find a hotel for a couple of days. I called around and found one off the interstate near the address of that new apartment and reserved a room for 2 days and nights. Check. The next to last thing I did was dig up a mini recorder from my desk, loaded with fresh batteries and a new cassette, and slip it in my jacket pocket. I might need a recording of the next few hours worth of conversation with the gang of 3. The last thing I did was empty most of the junk in my desk into the trash and put the remainder in a Xerox paper box to carry out with me. Check and check. It was dark out when I got home and my house was dark and deserted. They weren't there yet. Man, I thought that emergency roadside service really blows. I had just gotten my suitcases down from the attic when I heard the door open. Perfect. I thought the gang of 3 arrived. I figured they'd find me eventually. I turned the recorder to record and set the jacket down at the end of the bed with the gain set at max volume. They came up, Claire in the lead. I guess the adulterous 2 weren't eager to face me. They stood there watching me as I opened up the suitcases and tossed out whatever was inside onto the floor. Anything that was mine and hadn't been used for over a year was superfluous. Anything that was hers, who cares? Rachel spoke first. Ethan, first of all, we're all very sorry that you got hit with that today. Now, will you please listen and not go crazy on us? Oh, sure. I said, I can listen as I pack, but here are the ground rules. First, nobody touches me. No hugging, nothing like that. No one in this room has close-up rights to me.